Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video we're going to talk start collecting Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and today we're going to take a look at the Ossiarch Bonereapers and their Vanguard box set, and how we can use this box set to start a force of the army in the current season of Warhammer Age of Sigmar in Andtor. And so we're going to go through the contents of this box set, talk a little bit about all the units and the options we have along with what they do on the tabletop, before having a look at some other units we can use to expand upon the initial purchase. We'll then finally finish off the video with a little sample army list for you to use as some inspiration for starting your own Ossiarch Bonereapers force, and that list will be 1,000 points. And so, to begin with, let's talk about the contents of the Vanguard box set. And this box set is led by a Mortisan Soul Reaper. What's cool straight away is this box set is led by a model that is an Andorian Locust. So we have a 1 cast and 1 unbind wizard with 5 wounds and a 4+ save. The Soul Reaper Scythe as well is a decent combat profile for a wizard with 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren -2, damage 2. You've got the Soul Reaper ability as well, where each time this unit fights, you can say it will unleash a Reaping Strike, and if you do so, it gets +2 attacks to the characteristic of its melee weapons, but it can only target enemy units that have 5 or more models in them. It's pretty cool though, because that does mean, you go up to 5 attacks at 3s and 3s, Ren 2, damage 2 is pretty nice for a wizard. Now, Soul Blast is your War Scroll spell, and what this does is has a casting value of 6 and a range of 12 inch, and is successfully cast at the start of any phase before your next hero phase. You can pick one enemy unit within range and visible to the caster, and they will suffer D3 mortal wounds. However, if you're within 3 inch of the caster, the unit you pick is within 3 inch of the caster, they'll suffer 3 instead of D3. So basically, a boosted Arcane Bolt, which is pretty solid. Now, we are joined with this unit by a battle line unit, which is 20 Mortek Guard. What's cool is this could be built as 2 units of 10 or 1 unit of 20, whatever you desire here. Mortek Guard have 1 wound each and a 4+ save. They have the options between Netherite Blades and Netherite Spears. The big difference here being that you'll hit on a 3+ with a blade rather than the 4+ of a spear, but the spears do have the 2-inch range. You also get the option for 1 in 10 models to have a Soul Cleaver Greatblade, which are 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, rend 1 and damage 2. Champions of your Ossiarch Bonereaper units as well are really interesting. They are called Hecatosses, or some other versions of this as well. And what these are is you're going to be able to have the model here, and it's going to be able to effectively issue commands and use Relentless Discipline. It becomes a very integral part of the units. Now, we then have the ability Shield Wall, where you can use this command ability so long as your Hecatoss is around, and what this does is you ignore modifiers to your save rolls, both positive and negative, once again showing how important these characters are. Now, we then have a second battle line option in the box set, which is the Kavalos Death Riders. These are Ossiarch Bonereapers cavalry, and they're pretty solid, 3 wounds and a 4+ save. They have the option for spears and blades, just like your Mortek Guard, but they do also get a couple of attacks out of their mounts as well. Death Rider Wedge is a command ability where you can use this so long as your Hecatoss is alive. In that phase, modelless units can pass across other models with wounds characteristic of 3 or less in the same manner as a unit can fly. And after this unit makes a charge move, you pick an enemy unit within an inch and you potentially can deal some mortal wounds to them. Lastly, in this box set, we have a behemoth that is the Gothizzar Harvester. This effectively not only can be a little bit of a punchy piece with its 6 attacks at 3s and 3s, Ren 2, damage 2, and another 4 attacks at 3s and 3s, Ren 1, damage 2 in melee, but you've also got the ability to do some healing on your models with the Bone Harvest special rule. At the end of the combat phase, you pick a friendly Ossiarch Bonereaper unit that's within 6 inches of this unit that had any model slain, and if you do so, you roll a dice for each model in that unit that was slain, and on a 4+, you can return a model, you can heal some wounds, or you can potentially return a number of slain models to the unit as well. Some cool things to just keep your army going and keeping everything put together and alive. Today's video is brought to you by Gap Games, a fantastic retailer in Australia for a variety of different miniature war games. If you'd like to help support the channel, we have an affiliate link where by clicking on and purchasing, you'll help support the channel, but you'll also help support Gap Games, which is a fantastic servant to the community. And so we have quite a few wizards we can look to take with the Ossiarch Bonereapers. We have some named characters, some endless spells, and indeed some different wizards of varying quality as well within the force, which I think is really cool. Now, the first of these I want to talk about is the Mortison Soul Mason, who is a 2-cast and 2-unbind wizard. Now, the Mortec Throne at the end of your hero phase, you can roll a dice for this unit, and on 1, nothing will happen. But on a 2 to 5, you can immediately attempt to cast the Soul Guide spell, which is their War Scroll spell. We'll talk about that in just a second. Even if you've already made a casting attempt for that spell, and on a 6, you can immediately attempt to cast it up to D3 extra times. Soul Guide itself has a range of 24 inch and a casting value of 6, and successfully cast, you pick a friendly Mortec Guard or Cavalos Death Riders unit wholly within range and visible to the caster, and add 1 to wound rolls for melee weapons made by that unit. Now, there is something cool here, because definitely in smaller games you're not going to have as many units on the table to be able to benefit from this, but if you do get the bonuses, it means your opponent's like minuses to wound won't be able to affect, because there's nothing stopping you being able to apply this multiple times to the same unit to negate any wound sort of deficits you have. Now, other than that, we have the Mortison Bone Shaper. This one is much more of the craftsman. We have the Shardstorm spell, which is some nice mortal wound damage dealing, but also the Bone Shaper ability, which allows us to heal nearby units. We're a 1-cast and 1-unbind wizard as well, which is pretty cool. And we do have our Ossified Talons in combat, which are 3 attacks and damage too, which is pretty cool. Now, next up, we have a named character in Vokmordian, who I think is definitely a really solid shout in the current season. First of all, 6 wounds and a 4+ save. This model has the ability to cast and unbind 2 spells, but more importantly, it knows the entire lore of Ossian sorcery. So this is really cool. It means he can take the entire Ossian sorcery lore and then still take something like Hoarfrost or Merciless Blizzard. Contract in the Gash is his own War Scroll spell as well, and you pick an enemy unit within 3 inch and roll a dice. On a 3+, your opponent must spend a command point to pick this unit to be the target of enemy unit attacks in that phase, but we then have a cool ability of the Mortal Touch spell, where we can just simply roll for this spell and then roll a dice. On a 4+, we slay the enemy model that's near us. This is pretty cool. You know, it only has an inch range, so we do need to get right up close, but it is, you know, effectively a little instant death, which is pretty cool. Now, we do also have Grim Warnings as a spell here, which will give us the special rule of subtract 2 from the bravery characteristics of enemy units while they're within 12 inch of the model as well. Now, lastly, we have the endless spells for the Ossiarch Bonereapers. We have 3 of them. The first of them is the Bone Type Shrieker. This is the multiple head thing with the pyramid on top. Now, the Portent of Doom means enemy units can't use Inspiring Presence or Rally nearby, and you subtract 1 from ward rolls near it as well. The Nightmare Predator, on the other hand, is some nice mortal wound damage dealing. And then lastly, we have the Soul Stealer Carrion as well, where models with wounds characteristic of 1 or 2 that are within 6 inches of this endless spell cannot contest objectives. This doesn't affect any Ossiarch Bonereaper units though. All the endless spells for the Ossiarch Bonereapers as well have the bonded rule, where this endless spell is bonded to the model that summoned it, and a bonded endless spell is always controlled by the model which bonded it, and a model cannot be bonded to more than 1 endless spell. If the model that summoned the endless spell is removed from play, the endless spell is removed as well, meaning your endless spells from the Ossiarch Bonereapers will never actually go wild on you. And so here we have our sample army list for the Ossiarch Bonereapers. Now, what's cool about the Ossiarch Bonereapers is we have a really cool sub-faction here that we can take, and this sub-faction is called the Null Myriad. Now, Null Myriad has a fun ability that is just absolutely perfect for the current season. You can roll dice each time a friendly Null Myriad unit is wholly within 9 inch of any friendly Null Myriad Mortisons, or a friendly Arcane if it's affected by a spell or an enemy unit with the abilities of an endless spell. On a 2+, you just simply ignore the effects of that, which is just awesome. Now, we then have a grand strategy here, which is going to be a textbook conquest as well, where when the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you control all of the objectives on the battlefield. Hopefully, if you're already winning a game, you should be doing this. And then our triumph will be inspired for +1 wound, as we are 10 points under. Now, we then have a Mortison Soul Reaper who is going to have our artifact for the force, which I think is a nice little sort of combo. What this does is he's going to have the Lumen Scythe, where you subtract 1 from hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks that target the bearer while they're within 3 inches of enemy units. This means you can get stuck into a horde and actually make use of all your cool abilities. And then we also have the spell Hoarfrost for some extra rend there as well. We then have a Mortis and Soul Mason, who is going to be our general with the command trait Dark Acolyte. What Dark Acolyte does is, in your hero phase, the first spell this general attempts to cast from the lore of Ossian Sorcery in that phase is successfully cast. It can't be unbound at all. And then we also have the spell Empower Netherite Weapons to trigger our Netherite Weapons ability on a 5 rather than 6. Battle line wise, we have our 5 Cavalos Death Riders, which have gone with Netherite Blades, and our 20 Mortek Guard to ensure we all get them in combat have got Netherite Spears, but also 2 Soul Cleaver Great Blades in the unit as well. We then have our Gothazar Harvester here, and lastly we have the Bone Type Shrieker Endless spell as well, while our whole force is wrapped up in a Battle Regiment to make it a 1-drop army. If you've got some ideas though for the Ossiarch Bonereapers in the current season of Warhammer Age of Sigmar and Andtor, let us know your thoughts about them down in the comments below, especially if it's starting with the Vanguard box set. And so, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and also drop a comment down below letting us know what you thought about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fun little community, we have a Discord server which is linked down in the video's description, and also linked down in the video's description are the best ways to help support the channel, either by Patreon or YouTube members, or by grabbing yourself some merch from our Teespring store as well. All of those are linked down in the video's description, and a special thank you to our YouTube members and patrons. We'd like to give you all a shout out, so thank you to our YouTube members John Castle, Disco, James Tillman, Monty Tabletop Terrain, Ariana Edwards, Broken Chef, the Johnny84, Lock Lorick, Ronya, Green Roots Gaming, and our patrons Wasarin, Kenny Lyle, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Cure Dynamic, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Benjamin Swallows, Redman, Iron Grinch, Colorblind Magic, Grimscold, and Andy C. Thank you all once again, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.